everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Beyond Instinct. I'm Michael Russell, and today I'm with Kirsty Goddard from VDM. Hello, Kirsty.
Hello, Michael.
So this is episode 2. We have the team working next door, so if you hear noises, bumps, bangs, phone calls, I do apologise, but I did say this is a real live podcast and going to be done in many environments. So we've got Kirsty on today. I know that we said we were going to have the team from Orca on, but there's been some illness in the team, so they've gone down, so Kirsty's kindly stepped in to take that torch. So today what we're going to do is be talking about a little bit about Kirsty, a little bit about her journey, a little bit about VDM, and also a lot about that word marketing that I currently don't like. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, fire away.
Hello, yes, I am Kirsty Goddard, director and partner owner of VDM agency. VDM standing for Velocity Design and Marketing.
Yeah.
That word.
So if you just heard creaks, that was my chair. Apologies. So okay, how did you get involved with this?
How did I get into VDM or marketing in general?
Let's go with both.
Okay. Shall we start at the beginning? I guess my relationship with marketing began via my love of the written word and the visual image. So it goes right back to when I was finding out what I love in life, and that is books, stories, and art. And marketing for me is a great way to combine those two things. Because through the power of the written word and storytelling and the visual image and visual manipulation, I discovered, which is perhaps a little bit scary, and might have its roots in the fact that I'm a middle child, that you can manipulate people to perhaps do what you want them to do.
Manipulation's a strong word.
Influence, I think, is the current word that we use. Manipulate is perhaps a little bit Machiavellian. However, I didn't realise that at the time. I just pursued what I loved, and after uni ended up at a publisher's, and after the publishers ended up at a marketing organisation that luckily for me specialised in the not-for-profit sector. So what we had to do was use communication to elicit funds from people who weren't parting with their hard-earned cash for any kind of ownership of a thing or a service. They were parting with their hard-earned cash to create a benefit for someone or something else. So that kind of marketing has to work really, really hard. There's very little benefit you can communicate to the customer, if you like, or the donor, the potential donor, other than a feel-good factor. So you literally have to use all the ingredients you can to get them to fundamentally make a donation or leave you a gift in their will, or volunteer for you. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard-working marketing. And starting right at the bottom as a production editor, checking things before they went to print in those days, I learnt how to use images and words to elicit a response from people. And luckily also for me, the guy who owned that agency at the time was he's become a guru, but at the time he was the expert in what we called relationship fundraising. And he wrote the first book about relationship fundraising, Ken Burnett. Some people who are into marketing will have heard of that. And that just meant that instead of constantly eliciting and manipulating information to get gifts, you also show gratitude. So you keep a database of people who've interacted with you, and you use the data available to you to build a relationship with them through further requests and further gratitude, and sharing information, so you get membership schemes, friendship schemes off the back of that relationship marketing exercise.
So what I'm hearing there though is that when you're talking about communication, is I guess you're making people feel?
Fundamentally, not-for-profit marketing is all about creating the right feeling.
Okay.
And again, the agency that I used to work with had a strong belief in positive feelings. So if you were, instead of showing the need, for instance, a hungry child in Africa at the time, you would show the results of donation. So you'd see a happy child perhaps well fed, or even just dispensing water from a clean water pump.
Okay, cool. So that's interesting. So I think that goes back to my thing, what I said at the beginning about marketing, that word. So, I wrote down here, it's a lot of things. And the reason I don't like the word is because I don't think it describes what it is. I think marketing's probably, could be 15, 16 job roles.
Yeah, it may be more than that. I think, again, going back in time, there was a very clear divide between advertising, marketing and sales as well. So marketing filled an arena that was kind of not as cool as advertising, but not as in your face as sales. Whereas I feel like 25 years later, the three things are much more blended, and actually what's happened to marketing is that it's become the mother of all communication activities in business. So advertising is now an element of marketing that you would choose if you felt like direct response wasn't the tool you needed to reach the audience you're after. So marketing itself has changed over the years. It's become a broad church, and yes, you're right, and within that there are specific disciplines that people might recognise the names of: digital marketing, marketing, direct response marketing, direct mail, direct response TV, radio advertising. There are lots of different tools in the marketer's toolkit. I think if you kind of marketing has become a profession a bit. I'm going to say it a bit like lawyers. So and you hear the term lawyer and you kind of understand that you're in the legal field. But within law, you can have family law, you can have civil law, you can have conveyancing. You get lots of different disciplines within the profession of law, and I think it's kind of similar. Although lawyers will hate me for kind of aligning marketing with law, but it's a similar structure, I feel, with marketing. Marketing is the mother word, and within that you have various disciplines: digital marketing, TV advertising, direct response, and all the little things that kind of shoot off those things, a bit like a family tree. Okay,
so we were talking. Sorry. So full disclosure, I'm also a shareholder in VDM. So we were having a conversation earlier, and something that jumped into my brain is Kirsty heads up marketing here, and it's taken me quite a long time to understand what that is. Hence this like conversation of what is actual marketing. And I think that I used to do a lot of marketing in a sales role, but I think that what you said earlier is that a company has got this piece of work, which we can't probably talk about, this piece of work that realistically you could type it out on a Word document and it'd have all the facts and figures, but that piece of work needs to go to 3 different types of audience, people if you like, and marketing, in inverting commas, we're not filming so you can't see that, is designing that wordage, that document, to be able to be delivered to resonate to each individual in the way that they would want to read it.
Yeah.
Is that making sense?
Yes.
And I would never have classed that as marketing before.
Right.
I don't know where I'd have put that. I didn't even probably think it was a thing until 6 months ago. but so for people out there that are tender documents is probably a good example. You can make them black and white, and they're black and white. But if they're going to a certain person or a certain place, then I guess there needs to be more thought of how those facts and figures and whatever they've been asked for need to be delivered, and that is communication marketing, I guess.
So it's absolutely crucial to what a professional marketer will get involved in is the analysis and definition of the person receiving the communication, so that you can target, another key marketing word, all your content and information to that person or kind of person. So fundamentally, the first job of a good professional marketer is to identify who the hell you're talking to. And I use talking very specifically because I feel like a lot of bad marketing is quite...
Sorry, we've got a
technical hitch.
I think it's going to... It's because I hadn't touched it. It's still recording.
Okay, cool.
We might leave this bit in, but this is classic SME world. So the laptop just decided to have a little sleep because I hadn't touched it. Sorry.
Not offended that even the digital device in the room was zoning out.
Yeah. It was like, why aren't you including it?
excuse me. Yeah. Where did I get to? Right, so we're defining the audience and speaking to that person, talking to that person. And I use that quite markedly because a lot of bad marketing, for me, I call it megaphone marketing. So you're just shouting into the ether, pissing in the wind, whatever you want to call it. Excuse my language. Scattergun comms. They have their place in terms of awareness marketing, but they very rarely elicit a response from anyone because you're not talking to anyone specifically. For me, great marketing is a conversation or a start of a conversation or the continuation and the mechanism by which people can continue to communicate with you. So it's never for me a one-off activity. It is a series of communications that generate a conversation with, or at least a relationship with, the person that you're after.
Yeah, so like I've heard that for 10 years now. Like, so I've met people and they've gone, you need to define your Alice, your Steve, your whatever.
Your avatar.
Yes.
Well, there's lots of words for it, yeah. Your ideal market.
And I think at the beginning, when I didn't have the money to pay for somebody, that was kind of, I kind of dismissed it. And I do think that when you're really small, you might not even need it. Is there an argument for that? Say you're 5 people, and most of your work comes from word of mouth. So as a startup, a lot of work comes through word of mouth, networking, BNIs, whatever.
Yeah.
Do you need to define that person, or is that a stage that when you become from a startup to like a process or a project where you go, right, now we're going to niche, now we need to think about our person?
I think the context within which you think about that person changes rather than the fact that you're thinking about them, because I think when you're in that startup mindset and activity burn, and I've been there, you know that person and you interact with that person and you're in almost daily contact with that person because they're your first few clients.
Yeah.
And you work on your relationship with them and you have conversations with them and you learn from what you do right and what you do wrong with various clients that you find. And yes, it comes through word of mouth, but I think the awareness of who needs you and how you can support them is very clear. It's very personal.
Because you're the one driving it.
Yes.
Right, okay.
And that's still influence and being influenced and being directed by your key audience, customer, avatar, whatever you want to call it. It's just that you know them.
Yeah. And
you really know them. And I think the strength and the frustration for a business owner is that they do know them. And any marketing, in inverted commas again, is then a dilution of that very direct relationship that you have with them. And so in some respects a little bit frustrating. Because you there's so much you know already about who you're after, what you want, who needs you, how you can
But if it's second nature, you just don't know it. Does that make sense?
That's what you don't. Yes, you haven't kind of analysed it and perhaps articulated what that is, but you know it.
Yeah, and I guess you need to pull that out because instead of you talking to somebody, your website's talking to somebody.
Your comms are,
or your social media, or your emails, or whatever.
Your advert in the local paper, whatever it is. You suddenly are not the only person talking to your ideal customer. Your comms are. You're kind of trying to spread the influence, and the marketer's task is to not dilute the impact. Is to actually perhaps enhance the impact of the relationship you originally fostered, to catch that magic, if you like, of the relationships that you began and that went well. To take the best of that and to communicate it to the people who might need you next, so that they're at least interested.
So a lot of it is communication, isn't it?
Ultimately communication. And becoming a broader and broader church, the more ways there are to communicate with customers, clients, and competitors, really, because competitors watch everything.
So where does brand sit with communication?
Oh, nice question. Thank you, Michael. Brand sits at the heart. And again, if you go back to the start of a lot of startups and those relationships that you have as the business owner with your clients, you are the frickin' brand.
Yep.
You represent everything that your company does. And then when you start to employ people, they do. So they become your brand. And then the culture that you form working with those people, serving your clients, then becomes the brand. And then whatever you do in terms of communicating that to your potential customers becomes the core of your marketing exercise. So if you can express the culture within your organization and the beliefs and values that you hold as a business owner in your communications, you are literally sharing what you need to with your ideal customer.
Yeah.
So brand, for me and for VDM as an agency and for all great marketers, sits at the very core, but it isn't a logo.
So that's what I was about to say. So I think that
I can see that question
12 months ago, someone would say you need to get your branding right. And I think, gosh, like, a logo isn't. So I think a logo is an anchor point or a north star of your brand.
Absolutely.
So
Nice way to
kind
put it,
of where
actually.
it is.
I love that analogy, yeah.
I know that a lot of people do the logo first, but I think realistically, what I've worked out is the logo is for the confidence of the company more than the client.
Yeah,
So
like
if
a badge
you've
of
got a
honour.
nice logo and you've got a nice business card, a nice website, you feel more confident. What you're delivering is the same, but it's your confidence. It then flips when you hit a 10, 15, 20 person company, and then that brand represents your culture, your behaviours, the way that people interact with you, that kind of thing. But it's, when I used to hear brand, I used to hear logo, where realistically, like I said, logo is confidence for the company, and then logo is a north star of everything that's around that company.
Ideally, yes, and I love the way you call it the North Star, because it is a guiding light not only to the people who work within the organisation, but to the people who follow it as customers or suppliers. They understand you and what you stand for. If you've got a strong visual representation of your brand, I don't really like the word like logo type. It is originally a Greek word, but I
think it's an older marketing as well, logo. People, like I said, we were talking about Diary of the SEO again. I know I mentioned it on the first one, I'm not going to mention it anymore. But Stephen Bartlett's the brand.
Yeah.
Flight Studio's not the brand.
I didn't, I
that's
don't.
what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think that, and Stephen Bartlett doesn't have a logo, as far as that's just his name.
Yeah.
So,
and if you're building a personal brand, he's a great.
Do we need like
example
logos? Are there, is it something that we've just historically done and we continue to do? Or
humans are simple things, and if you said my brand is this and my values are that and I believe in this and we represent that, you need that one thing. And I tell you when it really comes into its own, something that has been I love this part of my job, is when you have a brand that carries heritage with it. So and that often is represented via a logo that people have bonded with in many ways, which sounds extraordinary, but people do bond with a brand and it is represented via a logo. If you see it as a face, so how do I put it? You kind of fall in love with someone's face first, and then you get to know them, and then you remember the face, and it becomes dear to you.
It's the same reason that I would always buy an Audi versus a BMW or a Mercedes. BMW and Mercedes are equally as good cars, but I worked on Audi and Volkswagens and I'm obsessed with them. So to me,
you bonded.
Yeah, there's an argument that in some instances, as much as I'd hate to admit it, the others are better in some areas, but there's no way you'd catch me buying them.
That loyalty is extraordinary, and that heritage is so essential to long-term organisational success, to put it coldly.
Yeah.
I think cars are a great example. I think also food items are a great example.
Yeah,
so
there's no real reason to fall in love with those kind of things.
No.
They've got no, like that car is a piece of metal. It's got no emotion at all, but for some reason I believe it has.
Yeah.
And that's branding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's branding, but has its face on the logo, and that's the bit that we remember of the people that we love.
So we could be here for hours talking about this sort of stuff.
I could.
So yeah, you definitely could. And obviously, the more I've been involved with EDM, the more I'm understanding marketing, which is fantastic. So we've got about 10 sort of 15 minutes left. So it's not a sales pitch, but why VDM? Why are you part of that? What makes that great?
VDM is a great opportunity for me to craft an organisation that represents everything I do believe in about marketing and design. So VDM is actually a design-led marketing company, which, after my love of marketing, which you've probably heard in my voice, might sound surprising, but actually my belief in marketing and my belief in the best way it can be done is strongly connected to great design.
Imagery, yeah.
So I believe that marketing makes a connection, but it needs great design to make that happen.
What you just said about the logo is the anchor of the feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. If you can connect, how do we put it? Almost the science stroke art of graphics and moving image to create the right feeling in the person that you're trying to connect with. You've got a little bit of magic, to coin a phrase, and you should take that responsibility very carefully, and I do. And I think VGM for me is a great opportunity to share that with other people who need it. So businesses who are looking, they've built these great relationships, they've kind of forged through the first 3 to 4 years, and they're beginning to put their heads up above water and look for further growth. Brand building and marketing and communications and awareness building is kind of the next step, and to get that to work well, I see businesses that we work with succeed, and it's a great feeling. It is like a bit of magic happening. There are obviously procedures and rules and methodologies that we use to make that happen, but ultimately it is the combination of graphics and words that influence people, and we make that happen here. I've got a great team.
So what's not so good about VDM?
It's not big enough. It's not making enough influence. We can help more people. I think VGM, bless it, is a young business, and it is like every other young business, working hard to find the people it can make the best impact with. We've had some great case studies, and we want to make more of those. But I think its business owners, and myself included, are well and truly in love with what we do. And sometimes it's hard then to come out, look at the business and go, right, well, that's great, but how do we take it to the next stage? Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So what, if people are out there, part of this is that people have actions that they can do themselves for free. What, in the world of that word marketing, we were going to niche down on something really simple. So the majority of people that are listening have probably got in-house marketer, freelance marketer, they're using somebody like VDM. They've already got those in place, really. There might be some startups on here as well that are thinking about that. But what can you ask, or what advice or tip, trick, gold nugget, whatever you want to call it, give today for those people?
That they can do themselves.
Even or just get them to think about something that maybe they're going every single day and they're not thinking of it. You know, those things that people will say to me one thing and I'll think, I know that, but I haven't done it. Why am I not doing it? Like that kind of...
The danger with marketing is that it is so piecemeal when you're on the receiving end of it, or you're hearing about it, or you're reading about it. So you hear about a lot of different bits: digital marketing, TV marketing, direct response TV, direct mail, blah blah blah. You hear about all the different bits, and you're like, well, which one's for me? Which one should I do? I can see direct results from my Google ads. I can see if it's working or not. So I'm going to take that. I think the problem is if you take piecemeal solutions, you take the scraps off the table, if you like. You're really only ever you're kind of not looking at the whole meal. You're not looking at what came first. And I think my single piece of advice for anyone who thinks they've experienced marketing and it hasn't worked for them, they think they've spent loads of money on this or nearly everyone in this position, and it hasn't worked. My single piece of advice would be consider your brand, consider who you're talking to and how they want to hear from you. Take a few steps back, look at the bigger picture, come away from looking at just digital results. Look at the best ways you can communicate with the people you really want to talk to. And again, I say that word carefully, talk to. Think about them as people, think about where you'll find them. And then if you don't want to go through the strategic comms process with an agency like ours, you want to kind of start to affect it yourself. Start to think about putting yourself in the places where those people that you're after will be yourself. It could be networking. It could be LinkedIn. It could be your website. It could be putting out blogs that people find useful. There are lots of different ways. But if you don't have a clear picture of who you're after and where they are, stop wasting money on expensive social media advertising, Google ads, SEO.
Because an influence told you to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, come back, take a few steps. You know your business. You probably know your business best. You probably know who you're after best. Tap into that. Go back to basics and think about, do the people I'm looking for, do they know who I am? Do they know what I stand for? Do they know why they would choose me over Herbert's next door? And And then say, if not, why not? And if not, how can I get that across? I've got, hopefully there'll be an element of sales in your team. How do my sales team know how to leverage marketing to support them in their lead conversion? Where are they getting their leads? Are they just making phone calls? Is that the best use of their time? Could they leverage marketing to help them bring leads in? Where are the leads I want? Have conversations with all the people.
How long, if you were going to measure this marketing, how would you measure it over a week, a month, 6 months, a year?
Measure which bit of it?
Results. Because obviously you've got quick wins, Google Ads. And
Quick wins, yes.
And you've got slow wins, which would probably be branding, communication, voice, all those kind of things. But the slow wins, in my opinion, tend to be stronger.
Yeah.
And hit referrals and everything else. So with Google Ads, you can measure within a day.
Yes.
Did they click my website? Did they turn into a lead? It's really, really easy.
Yeah.
If you're doing a piece to give you an example, I've got another business. We used to always be in a industry magazine. It was like £1,200 a year for a full page spread. When I bought the business, they'd always done it for 20 years, and last year I thought, you know what, if I put that £1,200 into Google Ads or something else, let's see what happens, and I stopped it. We sold more last year than we did the year before.
Yeah.
And I think that there's sometimes you can exhaust a method. So we've been there in that magazine every single week for 20 odd years. So they know who we are.
Yes.
And there's an argument of, do we still need to be there in case they worry we've disappeared? And I just thought, right, 1 year we'll try it. We can always jump back next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it's not like they're dying to see our ad there or whatever.
But right there for me, Michael, you've got the heart of great marketing, which is test, learn, test, learn, test, learn, test, learn.
But it costs money.
It can cost money, and having a strategy in place and a better idea of who you need to talk to and where on which platforms and where to put your money helps with that. And it out of that strategy will come clever ways to test, so that are kind of more strategic ways to test these platforms, these channels. And the other thing to throw in at that point is that 20 years in a publication, great, but these days
it's an old industry.
1 month it's TikTok, the next month it's Snapchat.
Yeah.
Where you put yourself these days changing so fast.
Yeah.
The best marketing professionals are kind of keeping up with that. Like, a couple of years ago, LinkedIn was definitely the place for us to be.
Yeah.
Well, it's moving, and people are searching for information about how to do things and the best way to do things via TikTok. And generations are learning different things, different way, and we're talking to different people.
Okay, so is there any resources, books, places people can go? That's going to cost them £6 versus 6,000?
Oh yeah, there are loads, and we've talked about it too. I think there are gods of marketing, and then there are bits of practical advice. I like a smorgasbord, and I like to take from the top and the bottom, so a nice buffet.
I don't know what that means.
A buffet of things that
So just so you know, I drink Huel, so that tells you my variety on food.
So at the higher end, you've got Seth Godin, who is a very famous personality in marketing, and his books, This is Marketing and the Purple Cow, they give you a good example of kind of stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, your brand. We've spoken about Rory Sutherland and alchemy, and not relying totally on analysis, logic and results, and bringing in a little bit of human connection, and sometimes trying to understand why that works over and above the data before you. I think there's some good kind of live examples. Stephen Bartlett for personal brand, and then I follow an organisation called Rise at 7 and their CEO Carrie Rose, and they're much more at the data end of marketing and search-led marketing, and she frequently presents content around how that arena is changing fast and how to kind of capitalise on that, as it were. I think those are probably the smartest ways to go to make sure you're covering all ends of the spectrum with marketing. So you understand the broader picture around brand and audience, but you're coming right down to the granular use of data, capturing data and repeat data. But there is so much out there at the moment. Everybody's trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
It's a little bit baffling.
And if obviously we're not looking for quick wins or everybody runs TikTok tomorrow or whatever, but like what do you see coming in 2025?
2025 is the year of changes in search. I don't know if that means anything to kind of business owners. You might have noticed in the last year, when you did a search on the internet through Google, you got an AI overview at the top of the page that you searched for. So suddenly actual brands were shuffled a little bit further down, even if you paid, you get that sponsored section. So it used to be sponsored results at the top. So anyone who's paying for Google ads, their brand would appear 1, 2, and 3. Below that, anyone who'd been doing great SEO would appear in order below that. That's now changed, and regardless of whether you pay, at the top of a Google search will come AI overview.
Yeah, you're getting that box with like a description of what you've searched for.
And sometimes in the past year that's been successful or not successful. God love AI. But they are honing that capability and have been over the past year. So that was last year. And this is what I mean about the pace of change. It's not really fully refined, that search result mechanism, but this year it is potentially changing to search generated. I've forgotten the actual synonym for it, but anyway, what's going to happen is Google will present its results to you, and it will take its results from a selection of sources, and based on the success of its kind of people responding to that search, it will present alongside rather than below the information it presents. It'll present the brand's results, but it will present its own answers first, no longer calling it AI.
But it seems to answer a question versus give you results.
Correct, that's what it's going to do. It's going to answer it itself first.
So do you think that people will be changing what they search for because of that? Because they might not want the answer of the question, they might want the product.
I think you're going to get, great question, and totally at the heart of how it's going to change. I think you're going to get two types of search. People who are typing in the problem, and people who are typing in a product. Yeah,
because recently you've been able to do really good SEO with blogs of problems.
Yeah.
But maybe the AI is going to take that away. So you'll get direct people that know what they want come to you.
Yes.
But beyond that, you need to work out how to integrate with the AI.
So learning how to manipulate your digital information, I think, is going to be big in 2025.
Right.
I also think that in a world of inauthentic communication, AI, bots and the like, and auto responses generated by God knows what, and occasionally correct and occasionally really wrong, trust has been deteriorating. And what people are going to look for this year in terms of brand and communications and organisations is an authentic presence, human connection, actual human connection, not fake human connection, and values. So something they can believe in.
So on LinkedIn, a lot more people are doing where people used to put, I know this isn't Facebook, or I shouldn't put this on LinkedIn. It's a lot more humanised.
A lot more human. I think there's going to be a rise in that, and particularly from organisations. So if you can, because a lot of people at the moment choose to write their blogs using AI to kind of enhance their presence on digital searches. Google's gotten wise to that. It's kind of lifted that and said, no, I'm taking the AI and I'm going to use it. So now we've got to beat both those situations, really. Putting it simplistically, sorry, this is really simplistic. You've just got to be that bit more human. And I think we'll see a rise in that. So it's this change in search and this rise of the human, if you like, God forbid.
I think that is one thing that will happen. I think humans will use AI. And I think that AI could easily outrun humans, but I think that humans like to deal with humans. And I think the only restriction to AI will be humans.
I so agree with that. I also think humans being humans, they act and react. And so obviously this year we're going to react to poor AI results by becoming that little bit more human. I imagine that the next reaction is going to be, well, now we trust digital a bit more. Humans are a bit flawed, back to digital. So we're going to, I think over the next few years, we're going to see this flip-flopping human, digital until AI really just thinks for me. And then I can relax and be happy.
Well, you think you'll be happy with your VR headset.
It will tell me I'm happy.
Yeah. Cool. Well, great. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
That's where we're going to try and end it now. So thank you, Kirsty, for coming.
Oh, thank you.
And as always, a bit rough and ready, but that's where we are. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you, Michael.